Okay, hello everyone. I'm just gonna wait for you guys to give me the thumbs up. Hopefully my volume is working. Let me double check here. Everything is green. All right. On my end, all systems are go. Hello everyone. Welcome to today's episode. Today we're gonna be talking about Colby Covington versus Robbie Lawler. What a phenomenal fight. Phenomenal performance. Please give me a thumbs up if we have sound. You guys know me. I'm not really good with the technology. Thank you for those thumbs up. Very, very appreciated. And I'm just going to give you guys a quick minute to load up here. We're going to have a bunch of people loading up very shortly. I tweeted it out that I was going to be doing this episode. So welcome, everybody. Welcome. And as everybody's loading up, I want to give a quick thank you to my sponsors. Very special thank you, of course, to Gym Kings clothing sponsor, and of course timtam.tech. Last video I did a video on the new Timtam Pro. A lot of great feedback from you guys all. I will show you guys the all new Timtam as well. I'll just give you guys a quick little comparison in this episode. Special thank you to Monster Energy and jujiclub.com. Okay, so as you guys are loading up into the chat area, I'm just gonna grab those two machines real quick here. And just give you guys a quick little rundown. This is the this is the Pro. Okay, this is the new Pro. This one, super ultra quiet, super ultra powerful. This is the top of the line. And with heat, okay? There is no other gun in the world with this much power and heat infusion. The heat is just incredible. Make sure if you have the budget for it, okay guys, this is a $500 massager. If you're a serious athlete or you place a high premium on staying healthy and recovering quickly for your sport, this is the number one investment you can make for staying healthy and recovering quickly. And we have also the all new. Okay, so the all new is one step below the Pro. This is the Pro and this is the all new. Now the all new is a lot more quieter and a lot more powerful than the original Timtam we had. You guys have seen it many times. I'm going to give you guys a quick comparison. This is the all new. Okay, this is a very powerful massager, no heat, but super powerful. Here's a quick little listen to what it sounds like. Now it's super powerful, super rugged. I could throw this thing down a flight of stairs, it'll still be okay. Now here's the Pro, and now you guys will hear it's way quieter. Okay, way quieter. That's level 1. That's level 2. This is level 3. It's super ultra quiet, plus it has heat. Anybody who's tried the heat, it's just ridiculous. If you massage your legs for 5-10 minutes, your whole leg gets super hot and warm. It takes a few minutes for it to transfer the heat to your muscle. But if you're working your muscle for 5-10 minutes, 15 minutes, it's like getting an hour massage. It's like somebody had massaged your leg for an hour. It is really that powerful and effective. Okay, guys. So if you guys want to pick them up, this is the all new. It sells for about $250. And this is the Pro. It sells for about $500. I know it's a bit expensive, but believe me, it's the top of the line. And there's no other gun in the world with this much power and heat infusion. Okay, there's just no other machine in the world like it. So check it out, pick it up, pick either one of these up, and I promise you, you will not regret it. Okay, guys, with that said, I'm putting these away. Let's talk about Colby Covington versus Robbie Lawler. Okay, now that fight, I know a lot of you were heartbroken, and a lot of you were a bit upset, and some of you even thought that Robbie Lawler threw the fight. Some people were telling me, I think he threw the fight. Okay, number one, okay, there's no way Robbie Lawler threw that fight. Okay, let's put that aside right away. Okay, those are real punches. I was there at the event. I saw the first few rounds live. I mean, I had to watch the fight after. I had to leave. I couldn't stay for the whole fight. I had to rewatch it after. I did rewatch it completely. And I'll tell you something, okay? Those are real punches. That's a real fight, 100% real. Both men were doing their best to win. People who are saying it was fixed, that's total nonsense. Okay, Robbie Lawler was there to win that night. I personally don't think there's enough money in the world for Robbie Lawler to throw a fight. Okay, personally, I don't think there's a number out there in which he would lay down for another man. I don't think he needs money. Okay, I think he's plenty rich. I think he's a fairly simple guy. I don't think he's the type of guy who wants to buy an airplane and own his own, own 20 boats. I think he's happy. He's probably very, well off, super well off. He's a very talented guy, very well deserved. He's built an incredible career. I'm sure he's made tons of money. He doesn't need money. Okay, so Why were people so disappointed? Well, I think, Colby comes off as the bad guy. He comes off as an antagonizing bad guy, and he really hits below the belt. Like, for those of you, I'm sure you've heard of his comments after the fight. He took a jab at Matt Hughes. We've all heard that Matt Hughes, of course, survived a train accident. He got hit by a train. He was in the car when he got hit by a train, and it nearly killed him. He was in a coma. He was in very bad shape. And now, thankfully, he's back out and about, and he's recovering. And I've talked to him personally after his accident, and I asked him just how he was doing, and he told me he's doing good and he's back on track. I can't tell you the extent of what he's living with now, but it's not great. He's not 100% back. He has a limp. He's walking as best he can, and he's probably going to be suffering from pain for the rest of his days. Now, Colby, after the fight, was like, hey, Robbie, you should have learned the lesson from your good pal, Matt Hughes. Whether it's a Trump train or a Colby train, get out the way. Now, in my opinion, that was just really, really below the belt. Really below the belt. Like, just not funny. And I know a lot of people are going to say, he's just playing a role. That's not who he is. And I believe that wholeheartedly. That's just a role he's playing. I would bet anything that Colby's a nice kid. Nice guy, sweet guy. He does strike me as a guy with a chip on his shoulder still. I don't know him personally, but I'm sure that's not who he is. He's just doing that because he thinks you guys are going to tune in and pay big bucks to see him get a beating or give somebody a beating. Whether you like him or hate him, you want to tune in. Why? Because there's a chance he might get beat up. There's a chance he might eat his words. And if he wins that fight, he's going to make you eat your words, for all the pre-fight talk, all of you thinking, oh, he's going to lose, finally he's going to eat his words. Now he could turn around right back and shove it down your throat. This does sell tickets, unfortunately it does. And he's going to be very popular, very famous because of it. And I don't think that it came off really, I don't think that's really who he is. Why? Because I feel like when he was giving those lines, it was pretty rehearsed. I felt it was rehearsed. I think that he didn't come up with that on the spot. I think he had thought of it. It seemed premeditated, and it still gets a kick out of people. Me personally, it doesn't really do anything for me. I really want to focus more on the fight, but I know you guys are going to bring that up in the comments right away, so I might as well address it. I think he's just playing a role. He's obviously playing a role. Now, about the fight. Listen, there's not much to analyze here. He's just head and shoulders above Robbie Lawler in wrestling. Head and shoulders above Robbie Lawler in conditioning. And even his striking was superior on the feet. Even his striking, if you just play all the footage of them striking on their feet, Colby landed more, and he landed the hard shots. I think Lawler had two good flurries, and they were not potentially fight-ending flurries. I thought he completely got outstruck by Colby, both on the feet and obviously on the ground. Okay, guys, for me, it was a total blowout. It was a one-sided affair. Much respect to both men. He just got out-wrestled. He got outstruck. He got out-conditioned. He didn't change his strategy during the fight. His coach during the fight, who's a very seasoned wrestling coach, extremely well-seasoned wrestling coach, Craig Jones. He was just trying to get under Robbie's skin. He's like, go get him, do this to him, do that to him. Put your hands in his face. Like, forget your game plans. Go at him. I think he was trying to motivate Robbie emotionally. Now, some people might say that's wrong. You got to give the guy technical advice. I agree. 99% of the time I would agree with that. But sometimes a fighter is just sleeping out there. And it's an emotional thing. Why is it an emotional thing? Because he's thinking about, something other than his goal. So I don't totally disagree with what Craig Jones did. I think it made sense. Because for me, Robbie had to throw. Whether he hits his target or not, he had to throw. He wasn't going to win. If you guys watched the fight, Robbie went through a phase where he was just kind of rolling, defending and rolling. You don't win fights rolling. He did too much of it. Rolling is good. Blocking is good. Shielding is good. Footwork is good. But Robbie's known for a guy who's very aggressive and throws a lot. And he didn't this night. Now, my opinion is because he kept getting taken down and mentally set him back. I think he was shocked by the amount of pressure he was getting by Colby. He looked to me like a guy who was surprised. Robbie looked to me like a guy who was surprised. I'm sure Colby and Lawler have sparred in the past. You know, they're training partners, ex-training partners. And I'm sure Colby's put it on him like this before. But maybe not to this extent. I think Colby's gotten a lot better in the striking department. And I think that might have shocked Robbie a little bit, because Robbie did look like he was in a bit of a trance. And that's why I do agree with Craig Jones. Get on him and throw those punches. But again, Robbie probably in the back of his mind, if I throw, I'll get taken down. I would have liked to see more body shots from Robbie. Because when you're hitting the body, it's hard to miss at the body. It would encourage Robbie to move forward. And if he throws a body punch while Colby's shooting, he'll probably get an underhook and be able to defend those takedowns. At least he has more chance to defend the takedowns. Because anyways, punching to the head wasn't helping him. He was still getting taken down. I forget how many takedowns he scored, but I think it was a new UFC record. I'm not sure about that. I think I think it would be Khabib versus Trujillo. But it must have been close, because Robbie did get taken down an enormous amount. Okay, guys, that was my post-fight analysis. I want to hear from you guys. Let's keep the subject on Colby versus Lawler. Please, no, let's not move on to other fights just yet. Let's focus on Colby versus Lawler. A supremely dominant performance by Colby Covington. All right, what do we got here? Let's see. What about when Colby took him down? He wasn't even trying to stand up. Don's Adventures. I think he was trying to stand up. I think it's just difficult because he needed a break. He needed to catch his air. Colby was taking him right back down. Colby was just so ferocious with the wrestling. And look, guys, the scary thing about Colby is not just he's a good wrestler. He doesn't get tired. He didn't remotely seem tired. He didn't remotely slow down. And I don't think Robbie could keep up that pace, and I think Robbie knows that. That's why on the ground he needed to relax. He needed to take his breath before he starts again. Whereas Colby didn't. Colby was just putting it on him. He couldn't keep up with Colby's pace, and I think that's why it seemed that he was just kind of being lazy. But he wasn't. He wasn't being lazy. He was working as hard. In my opinion, he was working as hard as he could. But he did seem shocked to me. He did seem surprised. Whenever you surprise your opponent, they have this weird look on their face, where they're trying to compute what's going on and it's not going in their head. Like they just don't understand. This is not what they were expecting. I've seen it before, and it kind of looks like what Robbie did. And, where you just don't react. Your reaction time seems slow. You seem to be like, you look in the guy's eyes and he seems to be in thinking about something really deeply. And he, to me, it's just he's overwhelmed. He's trying to compute this. That's why I don't disagree with what his cornerman did. He kind of, gave him a little wake-up call. And maybe that's what he needed. But unfortunately, he wasn't able to get through to him. If Robbie, skipped on me. All right, somebody's getting kicked out here. Excuse me, gentlemen. One man just got kicked out. Alleging I'm the mastermind of 9/11. Thank you very much. That's very intelligent. He just got kicked out. Because he wasn't shocked and didn't just readjust his fighting style. That's from Muhammad Ilyan. Yeah, no, he never adjusted. Robbie never adjusted. Robbie kept doing the same thing over and over again. And I think he's a great fighter. He's seen it all. He's been around. Until that night. That night, he'd never seen a fighter like this. He's never seen such pressure. This is the first time he's seen it. And I think it's because Colby's pushing new boundaries. We got to be fair with Colby, whether you like him or not. Okay, he's pushing new boundaries. He's bringing a different style to MMA. And this is not an easily replicatable style. It's a very complicated it's a tremendous amount of years of training to get to this level that he executed on Saturday. But it is a winning blueprint, to say the least. It is definitely a winning blueprint. Okay, what else we got here? Is there anything you would have told Robbie in his corner after round 4 to get him to go for the finish? That's Isaac Scott. Well, you know what? I would have asked him to go to the body, and he needs body shots. He needs to move Colby backwards. I think if he would have moved Colby backwards, he would have had a chance to actually connect on Colby's chin. He just wasn't connecting to Colby's chin. He was missing the chin by a mile. You know, he was just completely out of whack. I think he needed to go to the body, hit that body, back Colby up. Don't kick to the leg. You know, I think he needed to go to the body, then find the head. If you hit the body, you'll find the head. And he needed a knee up the middle. He needed a strong uppercut. He needed something that has KO potential. The punches that Robbie was throwing in round 4 and 5, in my opinion, were not KO potential. Even to the very end, he just kind of moved around. How are you going to win the fight moving around? You're down 5 rounds. You are down 5 rounds. He needed something, something we would call, in judo, we have sacrifice throws. So these are throws I would never do unless I'm behind. They're high risk, high reward throws. Now in striking, you have high risk, high reward attacks. They can either backfire in a big way or they can save the day. They can win in a big way. I don't think Robbie went to those. He didn't go to his sacrifice attacks, meaning I'm either going to get countered or I'm going to score big, but I'm not going out without taking a chance to win. That's what I want you guys to understand. That's what a sacrifice throw is. So sometimes I see an athlete do a sacrifice throw in round 1 and he backfires and the guy's on top of him and like, don't do that. Why'd you do that? You gotta shoot our primary attacks. If things get dire and we're behind, it's the 4th quarter. There's 2 minutes on the clock. Now we're going for the Hail Mary. Okay, so if I can give you guys that analogy, that makes more sense. Now we're gonna pull out our trick plays or high risk, high reward. Yeah, maybe we fumbled, maybe we get intercepted, but at least we gave it a try. And I just felt like Robbie stayed in the same gear the entire fight. And I think if he looks back at it, he'll be like, why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? So it seemed like he didn't go in there with a contingency plan. What do we do in the 4th quarter if we're behind? So I think that's what I would have done. I would have called for, some 4th quarter plays. Why didn't Colby use ground and pound in the early rounds instead of trying to go for the Mataleon? That's from DV Savix. Well, hindsight's 2020. If he went for the Mataleon and he got it, we'd all be like, good thing he was wise enough not to waste his time punching. I think that the attempts to the rear naked choke were very legitimate and worth pursuing. They were very legitimate and worth pursuing. So I think if he would have punched Lawler, he would be only holding him with one hand if he's punching. Lawler might get up and scramble. When you have that Mataleon, now Robbie's got to use his hands to grab your wrists instead of posting on the ground and getting up. So as I'm attacking your neck, if I wrap up your neck and I start squeezing your neck, guys, I know I'm not putting on a proper Mataleon because I have this cord here, and if I do a proper Mataleon, my earphones will pop out. Okay, so if he's doing a Mataleon, here, I'll go underneath. Robbie's got to use his hands to defend this. He has to. If he posts on the ground, I might finish this choke. So it puts him to an ultimatum. Like if you guys remember Khabib versus McGregor, McGregor had one hand on the choke, one hand on the ground. He was kind of like, should I get up? If he put both hands on the choke, look for that thumb. Maybe he would have stopped the choke. Maybe. But that's the compromise. If I'm trying to get up, I can get choked. If the guy's punching me, he has to use one hand to punch. He can't lock me up. So maybe I can get up now. So it's just a balance, Colby, he played it well. In my opinion, he played it very, very smart. He mixed the ground and pound with the chokes, with the breakdowns. He played a beautiful game. And you're always balancing these attacks. Not one is better than the other. Sometimes it's more appropriate to choke, and sometimes it's more appropriate to break the guy down. Coach, I'm shocked at what I witnessed that night. That's not the Robbie I grew up watching. Thanks for answering my question. That's from Dawn Adventures. John, I was a little bit shocked too. I thought, I picked Colby. I thought Colby would win that fight, but I didn't think he'd win it by that much. I just thought it would be a closer fight. Okay, what else we got here? Shouldn't you be training Tyrone Woodley right now? That's from Rockman. Rockman, you must have heard the news. Yeah, Tyrone's going to be working with me and George. I've worked with Tyrone a couple of times already. We hit it off. It felt right. The guy's a good guy. We get along well. So I'm happy to help him along in his journey. Of course, I'm working with other welterweights, and I like training with these guys because I also learned a lot. I develop as a trainer as well. But I want to stay on the topic of Colby Covington versus Robbie Lawler. We can talk about other things later, but right now we got to break down this fight. There's so much to say about this fight. I gave you guys my piece. I just felt that Colby was just in too many realms of fighting. He was on another level. striking, wrestling, jujitsu, ground, conditioning, just basically everything. Basically everything. So I want to hear what you guys have to say. What about Colby's genetic potential for kind of anaerobic endurance, for that kind of anaerobic endurance? That's from Stoyan Petkov. Well, listen, what he did out there, I would say, look, it's a lifetime of training and, of course, good genetics. Some people are predisposed to having better cardio than others, just like some people are predisposed to having more explosive power. He lacks a little bit in the power department in terms of punching power, knockout power. However, he definitely makes up for it in conditioning. And what you saw there was somebody with a lot of potential for conditioning and somebody who exhausted that potential his entire life. And then you get something phenomenal like what we saw on Saturday. It seemed like he could have went another 5 rounds. It was really impressive. How do you develop a kind of gas like Colby Covington? I'm sorry, it skipped. So I don't know who asked that question. My apologies. How do you develop that? Well, listen, you got to start young. In my opinion, you got to be an athlete your entire life. I've never seen anybody develop that kind of conditioning outside of training from a very young age. Okay, so I think it's possible. I think it is possible. I think it is humanly possible without drugs, of course. But at that level that Colby showed, personally, I haven't seen it yet. But I do think it is possible. Damn, coach, it's been a month between podcasts. Really real. That's from Really Real. My apologies, Really Real. I have been traveling ridiculously. I have been traveling the last 5 weekends in a row. So my body's a bit of a wreck. And I've been trying to keep up with all the demands. I am back now for quite a bit of time. So we will get these podcasts back on a roll. But don't forget, we have Abe cutting up the long podcasts and shooting them out still. So we're having like 2 or 3 episodes coming out a week. I know you guys can't listen to the entire podcast all the time. So Abe goes back through the podcasts, cuts out the interesting bits and reposts them. So if you guys want to hear, the title will give you the podcast, the subject matter. So if you're interested in that subject matter or you want to listen to it over and over again just to like kind of bank in that lesson, special thank you to Abe for doing that. Really appreciate you, Abe. People are loving it. The fans are loving it. So even when I'm on the road, guys, you can still be getting episodes. All right, let's see what we got here. This is a super chat. For us, it seems that the welterweight division hasn't evolved much since GSP left. No fighter has come in and revolutionized it. Is this fair? That's from AAK12345. I wouldn't agree. I think, I think George is the greatest welterweight of all time. I'm not trying to say that because I trained him. I was one of the trainers. I don't like to say I trained him. There was many great trainers involved in George's development. But I still think he has that bar. Okay, he set the bar at welterweight division. Now, Colby is doing something revolutionary because he's fighting in a way nobody's ever fought before. He's fighting in a way it's a high-pressure fight done in a way that personally I think is very unique. Now, George had a very similar style, comparatively similar, okay? It can be compared to Colby's style. However, he was more of an outside fighter and would explode forward with a surprising takedown. He would use the element of surprise to score his takedowns. Whereas Colby, we know he's going to take you down. And he's creeping up and he's getting close to your leg. And we know he's about to shoot, but you still can't stop it. And it's just a tremendous more amount of work. The way Colby does it is a lot more physically exhausting. However, it doesn't seem to affect him because he's such in great shape. So I would say he's the first guy doing it at that level, in that manner, at that level. I will also say Ben Askren does that in as well. You know he's going to take you down. He's constantly shooting. He's constantly trying to close the distance and shoot on you. However, he didn't bring that element of striking that Colby does. Colby brings an element of striking and I would say even a higher level of pressure than Ben. Ben brings funk. I don't think Colby does that kind of stuff. I wouldn't describe it as funk. It's more orthodox wrestling. However, Ben's interesting wrinkle is he brings that element of funk. It's kind of weird. His techniques are a bit weird. And I personally love it. I love to watch it. I love to see how, the things he does. It's really phenomenal. However, Colby's doing it, the high pressure wrestling, I think at a higher level. Plus he's bringing those flurry of attacks. The striking attacks. He has good flurries. Colby's very active on the feet. We can't sleep on Colby's striking. Okay, this one's from Omar Sheikh. What do you think about Colby's jab? Thought he did a great job using to keep Lawler offense at bay. That's Omar Sheikh. Yeah, he did a good job jabbing. He did. He did. He did definitely a good job jabbing. He did a better job than Robbie did. You know, Robbie, he's not really known as so much for his jab, but he could have used his jab to find his target. He could have used his jab to set up some offense, because Colby was just firing away. You know, that jab can intercept a lot of what Colby was throwing. Just throw that jab down the middle, intercept Colby's shots, and then you get on the offense. That's what I think I would have liked him to do a little bit more. Colby versus George, who wins? That's Jorge Masvidal you're referring to. That's from Michael M. Listen, I think Colby versus Jorge is an interesting fight, but I would go with Colby. I just think he's doing things at another level. What else we got here? Askren. What else we got here? Who has the better striking, Usman or Colby? That's from Ro Corey 100. Well, Ro, hold on, let me grab a sip here. That's an interesting question. I don't think we'll know till these two men face off, but I would venture to say that Usman may have a slight edge there. Slight, but again, very hard to call. Extremely, extremely hard to call. What do you think about Roberto Soldic? That's from Vaso Bakovic. Vaso, I actually just trained him today. I trained Roberto. I'm training him also. I trained him for his last few fights. I'm also training him for his next fight. I will also be there with him in his next fight. For those of you who don't know, Roberto Soldic is the KSW World Champion. KSW, a very big event also happening in London. I plan to be there. So for anybody who wants to do a seminar in London, I will be available. I will be in London September 14th, the week of September 14th. So if you guys want to shoot, if you guys want to do a seminar while I'm there for that week, I'm going to be there the entire week because I'm flying there from Abu Dhabi. So if you guys want to do that, hit me up. I plan to do a seminar in London while I'm there. All right, what else we got here? All right, do you think Colby's Jiu-Jitsu is amateur? That's from Michael M. No, I don't think his Jiu-Jitsu is amateur. He's using more of a top game that's effective in MMA. He's not the type of guy who's going to use orthodox Jiu-Jitsu techniques. I think a common misunderstanding is that wrestlers don't have ground. Wrestlers are very good on the ground, both on the bottom and on the top. Wrestling, if you go into a wrestling practice, there is groundwork. Yes, it's different. It's different than Jiu-Jitsu. But it's very effective for MMA because you could break a guy down. And then, of course, he does jiu-jitsu. He knows how to do the arm bars. He knows how to do the chokeholds. But he's an expert in breaking people down on the mat. If they're trying to build their base to get back up, he's going to break them down. He's going to use ground and pound, and he's going to kind of maul them on the ground. This is very effective for MMA. Of course, if his jiu-jitsu was like GSP, he would be even better, in my opinion. That's what I always loved about George. His wrestling was great, but also his jiu-jitsu was great. He's more of a jiu-jitsu guy. People don't know that. He's a jiu-jitsu guy who learned wrestling. He first studied jiu-jitsu, then went to wrestling. And that's why I believe he was so great. You know, if George wouldn't have needed that many takedowns. George would not have needed that many takedowns. That's how good his jiu-jitsu is. All right, what else was I hear? Do you find that Colby and Usman's style is quite similar? That's from Khalid Ahmad. Yes, of course, they're very similar in style. I think Usman is more controlled, and he shoots a little bit more by surprise. Where Colby, it's totally obvious he's going to shoot. It's totally obvious. He's in your face. He's striking, but he's just doing it at such a high level. He's switching from striking to wrestling at such a high level. It's just hard to keep up with him. Can he do that to Usman? Guys, I'm telling you, I don't know. I love to watch fights where I don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes I see a lopsided matchup. I'm not really interested in that fight because I feel like we all know what's going to happen. And this is a fight where I can't tell you. I don't know. Nobody knows, of course. But I mean, I'm waiting for this matchup to be signed because I'm gonna be watching it very closely. Usman versus Colby Covington. It's going to be one of the greatest welterweight fights of all time. It's going to be, two incredibly seasoned fighters. And I believe they might do it 3 times, at least. Because those guys are going to clean house for a while. You've got, of course, other welterweights that are jumping into the mix. Of course, like Tyrone, etc. But those guys might have their pre-fight back and forth, might lead to a trilogy fight. Because if you guys missed last Saturday, Colby went up to the booth after he did an interview, and it was just fireworks right away. Him and Usman could barely be separated by security. They had to be separated, I think, by like 4 or 5 people. And I think it's legitimate. Their beef is legitimate. I think it's going to shine through the promos. It's going to be eaten up by the fans. The fight's going to be back and forth. In my opinion, it's going to be a back and forth fight. And it's going to go to the judges. And it's going to be so close that they're going to want to do it again. That's just my opinion, because whoever wins or loses, they're not going to shut up. It's just going to be nonstop. And then they'll have to do it again. So unless one of them wins twice in a row, there'll be a third one. And I think it's going to be close. In my opinion, this is going to be a tough fight. Okay, we got another. This is from Drunken Irish Theory, another super chat. Hi Faraz, huge fan. What's your advice for fighting high pressure fighters with a heavy wrestling game? Much respect from Ireland. That's from Drunk Irish Theory. Well, listen, I really believe in wrestling. You got to wrestle. So you got to be at par with the wrestling. I like rolling. I like doing Granby rolls. I like great Jiu-Jitsu. I feel like Jose Aldo used Jiu-Jitsu very wisely throughout his career. He would attempt a sweep, and if somebody would defend the sweep, he would get up. I think Jiu-Jitsu guys don't use their Jiu-Jitsu, and they don't always use their Jiu-Jitsu in the most adaptive way for MMA. So, for instance, me, when I'm using my Jiu-Jitsu in MMA, if I'm on the bottom, I like to sweep, submit, or get up. I don't just like to sweep or submit. I think jiu-jitsu guys get in jiu-jitsu mode, and they're trying to armbar the guy and triangle the guy and leg lock the guy and sweep the guy, but they forget about getting up, because if you defend my sweeps, I got to get up. And I feel that really hurts the wrestler, because now the wrestler's got to try to take you down again. So a lot of guys just use their jiu-jitsu incorrectly, in my opinion, when it comes to MMA. Okay, wow, bro. Respect for the flex. I'm not sure what that means. What else we got here? Okay, what else we got? All right, let's go. What else we got here? I have a troll super chat. Not sure what that is. I want to see Colby versus GSP. Is that possible? I don't know. You guys will have to get on GSP and text him, tweet him, ask him. I don't know. Honestly, I think GSP's he's living a good life post fighting. I think he's really happy these days. So it would take a lot for him to want to come back. It would take a lot more. What else we got? Did GSP adopt Woodley as his? Listen, guys, we're just gonna be helping Woodley out, working out with him, and who knows where it goes from there. Is Robbie done? That's from Rockman. I personally don't think so. I personally don't think so. Not at all. He's been in worse jams in the past and come back to shine. So this is just a tough spot for him to be in, but he'll be back. He's a killer. He's a really, really tough fighter. He'll come back and he'll rack up wins. He's definitely far from done, in my opinion. All right, what else we got here? Okay, I think you guys are pretty much done with the Colby and Robbie Lawler fight. I think you guys are pretty much done with it. So now we can move on to other topics. How long do we have? We did a half an hour on Colby versus Lawler. I'm sure he's going to be fighting Usman next. I know it's not official, but I couldn't imagine them doing another fight. Can Colby do that to Usman? I think we're going to find out in Madison Square Garden. I believe that date is November 2nd. That's going to be an incredible fight. I'm sure we're all going to be tuning in. Every fan in MMA is going to be tuning into that one. All right, guys. So right now, I'll open it up to any other question you guys want to talk about. What else we got here? Should I get the guard retention video or just... Should I get your guard retention video or just John Danahar's? That's from Mr. T Combo 7. Mr. TJ Combo 7. Well, listen, my video is like 45 minutes long, and I say it's like a 3-hour seminar, really condensed. John's video is much longer, many more hours. I don't know how many hours. I think he did like a guard, like an escape from bottom type video, a really good video. I did scan through it, but it's really long. It's really, really long. So it's up to you. I mean, if you have the patience to go through all that content and really take it to the next level, do it. If you want short and concise, check out my video. We have 2 different teaching styles. Familiarize yourself with both styles and choose. Okay, opinion on Askren versus Masvidal. That's from Matiha Kristovic. Listen, I didn't do a post-fight analysis on that fight. Now, there's not much to analyze. Jorge Masvidal scored the knockout, probably the greatest knockout, or the second greatest knockout in MMA history. Probably the first greatest knockout in MMA history is Conor McGregor versus Jose Aldo. The second greatest knockout is probably Masvidal versus Ben Askren. Why? It has a lot to do with the pre-fight hype. And listen, he played it so smart. We all know Askren's going to shoot. If you run at him, what's his most primal instinct? It's to shoot. And listen, he played it well. What was going to happen? If he missed that knee, he would get taken down. Well, he's going to get taken down anyway. He might as well start the scrabbling now. It was a brilliant move, brilliant strategy. It paid off, and congratulations to Masvidal. There's not much else to say. Really, there's not much else. The fight was so short, so brief. All we could sit back and be like, wow, that's what it is. Really, that's just so stunning. But it was a smart game plan. He had his hands behind his back. He leaned on the fence. He looked totally like, the last thing on his mind was to do a flying knee. And then, boom, he does a flying knee. So just great strategy from the get-go. Straight from the get-go. Do you think a healthy Thiago Santos can beat John Jones in a rematch? He gave him a tough fight with no knee. That's from Luther Blissett. Okay, Thiago Santos had a really bad knee. He looked injured straight from the beginning. And he probably had an injury before the fight. I can't confirm that. I don't know. He probably hid that injury. It's a world title fight. Can he beat John Jones? Look, it's within the realm of possibility, but I still believe John Jones will come out on top. John Jones is very good at adapting. And I was just really surprised that John Jones didn't take the fight to the ground. There were some key moments in that fight where I felt that John Jones could get a takedown. And he seemed not to want to go for it. He just didn't seem like he was interested in taking Thiago down, which is strange. I know later on he said he wanted to beat a Muay Thai guy at his own game. But he's fought other stand-up guys and taken them down in the past. So I don't see why he wouldn't want to do it now. So I think that if John needed that takedown, he would go and he would take it. So that just amplifies his ability to win. Coach, what's your opinion on bullying? Can it ever be beneficial for development of young man's character? That's from Daniel Kuzmenko. Well, Daniel, I assume you're telling me that because there's been some bullying recently. George Masvidal, after he beat Askren, bullied him. He mocked him. He did things that maybe a lot of us would consider in poor taste. And Colby also, after the fight against Lawler, he wasn't a gentleman about it. He poked the bear. He insulted Robbie. We talked about that train comment. Can it be beneficial? Well, look, yes and no. Look, I started learning martial arts because I was tortured by bullies, So for me, in my older age now, if somebody tries to remotely bully me, like, I don't stand for it. If we're talking about face-to-face interaction, not on the internet. On the internet, I mostly ignore it. However, if somebody were to be in the same room with me and is trying to bully me, it's going to be a problem for me. Personally, it's going to be a problem. I think there's both good and bad in bullying. You can turn bullying into a blessing. Look, George St. Pierre was obsessed with martial arts as a young man because he was horrifically tortured. So for me personally, if I see my kids being bullied or whatnot, I don't run to the rescue. I let them deal with it. I tell my sons, how to deal with it because I'm not always going to be there. And that's what I really believe. Then they'll have true confidence. So for me, look, when somebody's bullying me, I'm going to find a way to deal with it. And listen, we should not be easy to bully. Even if you can't beat your bully, if you're just too much trouble for him, He won't pick on you the next day. So if you're a young man, you're going to school, and you're getting bullied, look, become too difficult to bully. You don't have to be the toughest guy in the world. You just got to be so tough that even a tougher guy on a bad day might get hurt from you. So he won't want to chance it. He knows that you're too much trouble, and there's no judge's card when you're getting bullied. You want to fight, let's fight. And if you can't put me away, we're fighting. How long do you think? Like, if you're just a very stubborn, tough, well-trained martial artist, you're just too much trouble for any of us. I couldn't pick on you if you're a really tough, well-developed martial artist. And that's what you got to be. I think that's the bottom of the barrel. You should be at least a dangerous handful for anyone. And then that should help resolve the bullying issue. Because the thing is, the truth of the matter is, bullies just attack you when you're an easy target. Most bullies just attack an easy target. Hey, for us, how's life? That's from Liam Dante. Thank you, my friend. Life is going really, really good. What do you think about protein shakes? That's a question for another day. Who do you want Ryan Hall to fight next? That's from Thomas Obuchin. Well, that's up to UFC. Bonjour, je vis à Montréal et j'aimerais m'inscrire. Comment va-vous évaluer si qualifié pour les classes niveau avancé? Je suis intermédiaire et aimerais être avec des pros. That's from Guillaume. Guillaume's asking, how do I sign up to Tristar? How do you evaluate people? Well, Guillaume, you come to the all levels class, and then I'll invite you. I'm there. I teach the all levels class. If you check online, you'll see the schedule. And when people come in, you start an all levels class, or you can even show up to the pro class, and I'll ask you a few questions. And if I'm happy with your answers, I'll let you join the pro class. I'll watch you for a round or two, and if I feel you're good enough, you can hang out. If not, I'm gonna ask you to step off the mat. Tristar is very controlled. We have all different levels. We have classes from in striking and wrestling. We have classes for beginners. We have classes all levels, and we have classes for pros and advanced. So when you just show up, sign up, show up to the class, they're going to tell you where to go. When you go to the desk, they'll tell you, show up to this class. And oftentimes we have a beginner and advanced class going on at the same time. So if you come in and I feel you're not good enough for the beginner, I could just send you to the intermediate or beginner mat. Okay, so it's a very big gym. We have several mats, several classes going on at once. That way you never come to the gym for nothing. Okay. All right, what else we got here? Guys, I would appreciate it if you write in all caps because it's kind of like far away from me. And those of you like Matija, writing in all caps does me a big favor. So Matija is asking, what do you think could Alexander Karolin fight in MMA? Yeah, of course, if he was, trained in the other arts, if we taught him boxing and if we taught him Jujitsu, he'd be a killer. He'd be an absolute nightmare to deal with. Don't forget, wrestling is a combat sport. It's like if your background is boxing. Well, you know what? You got to learn Jujitsu. You got to learn wrestling. You could be incredibly effective in MMA. If your background is in judo and we teach you the other elements of fighting, you could be incredibly effective in MMA. So obviously, Alexander Karolin he'd be a beast in MMA. What else we got here? All right, we got all caps going here. Amazing. Thoughts on Miller versus Guida? That's from AMR. That was a great fight. It was short, but that was a great fight. Guida landed a beautiful counter strike, hurt Miller, and then Miller landed a similar counter strike, and then caught that guillotine. Just two pros, two fan favorites. Just two incredible fighters putting on a great show. It could have went either way, that fight. There was no loser in that fight. There was no loser in that fight, and I say that because those guys have shown so much in the octagon. They're such long-time fighters. They have survived 3 generations of fighters. Those two guys are they're made of steel, And if they fought again, it could go the other way. That's all I gotta say. I feel like those are just two guys that have reached the elite level, and it just went Miller's Miller's way that night. This guy's wasted $5 on a stupid question. Okay, so are you and Woodley GSP collaborating for a new hip-hop song? That's from DBJMK. Believe me, you don't want to hear us rap. Okay, so I don't know about Woodley. Maybe he's a good rapper. I haven't heard him yet. But me and GSP, we're not very musical. What's your favorite fight of all time? That's from FUT123. Foot123. Greatest fight of all time. You know what? It would have to be George St. Pierre versus BJ Penn. just because that was our breakthrough moment. That was just like the moment where that was before that fight. Nobody knew us. Like in Quebec, Montreal, Canada, barely anybody knew George or me or Tristar. After that fight, it just became a hotspot. People travel from all over the world till today to visit us, and just it seems like we were accepted on a mainstream level. So it was just our breakthrough fight. What else we got here? Are you really training Woodley? That's amazing. Yes, sir. Working together with Woodley. And of course, Kevin Lee and a whole host of other fighters. Like I was talking about Roberto. He's also the KSW champion, and a whole host of fighters. You know, just TriStar has like 30 to 40 pros throughout the year who come in to prep for fights. Just a very busy gym. How do you think Askren versus Maya goes? That's from Matthew Daly. Look, Matthew, that's another fight I'm really excited to see. Listen, that is a very, very interesting fight. Very interesting fight. Like, my mind's going to be... like, I can't wait to see Funk wrestling versus Damian Maya's Jiu-Jitsu. It's just... I don't even know. I have no idea what's going to happen. I have a feeling if Maya... Here's the advantage I give to Maya. He's got ways to finish with submissions that Askren doesn't. However, I feel that Askren has a better gas tank. My one critique of Damian, and I love Damian, and I'm a huge fan of Damian Maya. Me and him have talked about training together in the past, and that's somebody that I would love to train with. I would love to roll and spar with. I mean, I would love to see how, him go with me and the guy. I would love to train with him. Okay, he's one of my heroes. But my one critique is I feel like his gas tank is got him in trouble. I think that Damian hasn't reached his full potential because he never reached that level of conditioning that he would need for the style he has. If he had that level of conditioning, I would pick him almost all the time to win. So I just feel like even when you saw him fight Colby Covington, guys, go watch that fight. Maya wins round 1. Guys, all due respect, watch that fight. I know Colby wins round 2 and round 3, and by round 3, Damian's hanging by a thread. But round 1, I gave it to Maya. Maya was looking really good. I don't think either fighter really was going to take each other down in that round. They were just like seeing who's the better striker. It's when Maya started shooting, getting tired, that really it started to backfire. So that's a really interesting fight. I have to watch it again, how the striking went in round 2, because I'm not remembering it right now, but I remember Maya touching up Colby in round 1 and winning that round. Who has better striking, McGregor or Saenchai? That's from JS. Now, if you're talking about purely stand-up, I would go with Saenchai. If we're talking about MMA, of course, Saenchai is not a grappler, so obviously it'll be McGregor. But again, McGregor will be stepping into Saenchai's world, which is totally Muay Thai. And if it was just boxing per se, I would pick McGregor for sure. If it's Muay Thai, full-out Muay Thai, I'd pick Saenchai. If it's MMA, of course, no brainer, it'd be McGregor. Coach, are your thoughts on Jack Dempsey's book? That's from Vlad. Well, Vlad, you know what? I've heard that it's not true that he wrote that book. Somebody was telling me that it's a forgery or whatnot. I'm not sure about that. I've never looked it up. I have read the book. I thought it was interesting. Had some very interesting concepts, and some concepts that I hold to be very true. However, I think boxing's moved along ways long from then. It has moved forward a lot since then. Even though there are still some elements in there that are cutting edge. What else we got here? What else we got here? Is Rory coming back to UFC? That's from Puffy Yumbles. No, he has a world title fight versus Diego versus Lima. And that's a $1 million fight. It's the main event of the welterweight tournament in Bellator. That is a $1 million fight. It's going to be happening in October. Make sure to mark your calendar. 2 of the greatest welterweights fighting for a world title for $1 million. So a very special night. What else we got here? Thoughts on Whitaker versus Adesanya. That's from Mangala. Listen, Mangala, I've trained with Robert for a long time. So for me, I'm always going to pick Robert. That's my boy. He's part of the team, part of the family. I never go against the guys I picked. Obviously, Adesanya is a supremely dangerous guy, highly skilled, one of a kind on the feet. But I have to support Team Whitaker because, he's just such a great guy. And that's as far as I'm going to say. It's a tough fight. A really tough fight for both men. Anything can happen that night. Anything. I mean, these are two legitimately masters of, they're the best of the best in the middleweight division. And what else is there to say? But I'm going to be going Whitaker, of course, because of our history. How do you think Roberto Soldic will do in the UFC top 5 welterweight? You're going to have to wait and see. My friend. I'm sure that's going to happen very soon. Coach, we'd love to see a philosophy series, please. That's from X1 Hacks. Maybe in the future, my friend. If I had the time, I would love to entertain that idea. And I'm sure it would be a blast. Maybe when I retire one day. Maybe. But for now, it's just going to have to be small glimpses here and there. Do you think Alexander the Great would be Alexander the Great without Aristotle? That's from Iced. No, I don't think so. No. I think Alexander the Great being mentored by Aristotle really opened up his mind and increased his IQ heavily. And for those of you who don't know, Alexander the Great was a brilliant strategist on the battlefield. A brilliant strategist. And without those strategies, he would have failed. His ability to think and analyze came from, in my opinion, Aristotle. Rockman, go back on Joe Rogan podcast. That's from Rockman. Rockman, I am planning to go back on the Joe Rogan podcast. It's funny you say that. I just texted him yesterday and said, yeah, it's time. So look for that. Hopefully by the end of August, September, maybe even October. I don't know. Our schedules are both super packed. But Joe, when you're ready, I'm ready. Come back. I had fun last time and look forward to doing it again. What else we got here? Who, in your opinion, is the best fighter in the world and why? That's from Umar Ali. Present day world's best fighter. Present day pound for pound. Present day active. That's just so hard to say. Honestly, too hard to say. Just really. I mean, we'd have to put Cejudo up there. We'd have to put Adesanya, Whitaker, all the UFC champions. You'd have the ones who've been in that position for a long time. Of course Khabib. Of course you would have to put Khabib. It's just too many great fighters. Just really too many great fighters for me to pick just one. Awesome. Your Joe Rogan podcast was great. Okay, thank you very much. Guys, tweet Joe, tell him you want me back on, and I'm sure he's going to make it happen. He's just a very busy guy, and I'm a very busy guy. We just got to make our paths cross, and we'll do it again. All right, what else we got here? Go on Tyson's podcast. That's from Daniel Quinn. Daniel, if you have a hookup, tweet him. I'll do it. I'll do any podcast. Any podcast. If I have the time and we could schedule it in, I'm in. I know I do get a lot of requests for podcasts. Sometimes I don't reply because I just don't have the time. But I am interested in doing more podcasting. Where I'm not the host, I want to be a guest. I can't do a regular podcast outside of this one because I just don't have the time. And a lot of people are trying to get me to do a podcast outside of MMA. It's just very difficult for me because of time constraints. How do you find your calling in life? That's from Codex. Well, Codex, here's a very simple answer. Number one, discover what you're talented at. Every human being is predisposed for some kind of talent. Are you mathematical? Are you scientific? Are you artistic? Are you athletic? Which one of these are you? You've got to be one of them. Are you funny? Are you creative? Something. You've got some superpower. You've got something that you're naturally inclined. And one good way to discover what that is try to remember what your family complimented on you on as you were growing up. Your friends, your family, as you were growing up, what did they notice about you? Were you a really fast runner? Were you extremely strong? Did you I don't know, did you play a particular sport and it just seems supernatural to you? Did you have a particular writing style that people found intriguing? What's natural superpower did you have? That's an oxymoron. What natural talent? You know what I mean by superpower. You know what I mean. Like every Marvel hero has something special about him. Every DC hero has something special. He has kind of superpower, you know. So if we can make that analogy, what natural talent do you have? Find it. Be honest with yourself. And then work at it every single day. Exploit it. Exhaust it. Make it so polished that you're shining. You are shining when we compare you to others in that field. That's what I would say is how you find your calling. Rodolfo Vieira fights this Saturday. What do you think, coach? That's from Diego Mata. I'm really excited about that fight. For those of you who don't know, Rodolfo Vieira is one of the all-time great grapplers, jiu-jitsu grapplers. He's also a very athletic guy. I'm very interested to see how his stand-up look like. I have not seen any of his stand-up at all. I haven't seen any training footage of him standing. However, he's a very, very seasoned wrestler and jiu-jitsu practitioner. Should be extremely interesting. I will be watching, that is for sure. Is Askren 2 one-dimensional? That's from Sebas. Sebas, well, it's hard to say. You know, we're only going to know after he wins or loses. So, I mean, I don't see him. Look, he's got a tremendous talent for wrestling and ground. He's just got such a tremendous talent. It's wise and intelligent of him to pursue it to the full extent. It is wise and intelligent. It has worked. We see his striking. His striking is looking better. You know, with Robbie, it looked better, but it was still not at nowhere near the. I know some of you are going to scoff at that. It's better than it's been in the past, even though it's still not up to par. It's still not up to par. I think he's honest about it. I think he knows. You know, he's not going to be winning fights by standing. It might happen once in a blue moon, but that's not his forte. He's staying smart. He's staying true to his style. He's staying true to his talents. And I think if he didn't stay true to his talents, he would be less successful. Open or close guard for MMA? That's from Robert Verdell. Both, Robert. They both have their time and place. Both guards are excellent. Thoughts on Tony Ferguson? That's from Rockman. Listen, Tony is on fire right now. His fight against Cowboy Cerrone was a tremendous performance. I felt that he looked like he improved. It's very hard for elite athletes to improve. It's more difficult. If you take somebody who's more green, the greener you are, the easier it is to improve. As you get really, really good, you plateau. The plateaus become more common. Takes more of once you plateau, it takes more of an expertise in coaching and in training to break through plateaus. The plateaus get more and more complicated to break through. Obviously, you're exploiting the potential of your body. There's less and less potential. However, even after winning a world championship, Tony Ferguson looks like he's improved. In his fight against Cowboy Cerrone, I felt that he improved. And his cornermen were telling him after round 1 that he wasn't pressuring enough. I thought he was pressuring just right. I think that he even, he's taken the helm. He's controlling his own corner, Tony. I think he's really become his own fighter. And he made a judgment call, and he made the correct one. In my opinion, he made the correct one. He was smarter in his first round against Cowboy than we've seen him in a long time. Usually he gets touched up in the round 1. Usually in his last performances, he's always getting touched up in round 1. However, this round 1 against Cowboy, he played it smarter than ever, and I think it showed some serious evolution in his game. And look, he just looked incredible. He just really, really looked incredible. Pedro Nunez, can you develop one punch knockout power? Well, Pedro, I do believe you can develop that if you start from a very young age. There's a lot of mystery surrounding what gives you a one punch knockout power type of how do we get to that Mike Tyson type of power? I've never seen it. I've never seen a guy going from hitting like a regular Joe to hitting like Mike Tyson. Never. Okay. I love that old saying in track and field. They say, we can't make you fast. We cannot make you fast. We can make you faster. You have to be already fast. You have to be predisposed to speed. And then our techniques and coaching will make you even faster. This is what I believe. Maybe in the future, somebody will develop a formula or method that allows us that one punch type KO power. But in my opinion, every KO puncher I've ever trained, they had great KO power right away. Like even on day one, I was showing them, I could feel like through I've held pads for thousands of people. Wow, the guy's got a lot of pop. And after the years of training, that pop increases. However, I've seen guys who hit the pads, they hit like regular Joe. Over the years, we increased their punching power. And yes, now they have the potential to knock someone out, but it's never that one touch, that touch of death type punch. It's never like that. I've worked with so many great trainers, and that's one of the top questions I always asked. Have you ever found a way to develop that touch of death? And it's always no. It's always like the guys who had the touch of death, the first day we trained them, we noticed that their punching power was through the roof, even though they were mechanically unsound. Like they just learned how to punch. Their punching power was greater than usual. It was already superior to the average. Like when you hear them hit the bag or you spar with them, you're like, hey, that guy's green. He's not technical, but man, he has got heavy hands. His hands are heavy. And in 2-3 years of training, that guy could be really good. Whereas the regular Joe, he can be really, really good. He can win other ways. However, he never gets that Mike Tyson type punching. For those of you who don't know the story about Mike Tyson got into a street fight, defending himself, knocked the guy out, and people were like, wow, man, that was what a punch, like people were freaking out over his punching. And they're like, you should go box. And then when he met Castamata was blown away. He was like, man, I'm going to make you a world champion. With my coaching years of experience and that punching power that you have, wow, like he just connected the dots together. And Mike Tyson said in his documentary, he said, I don't believe him. I was like, hey, I'm just going to rob this guy. This guy wants me to live in his house. This guy's going to, give me free food and shelter. I'll get off the streets. And the second I can, I'll just rob this guy. But Tyson said after training with him, after a while, I started to believe him. And Tyson didn't know he had these 2 atomic bombs for fists. He didn't know. He's a young kid. He doesn't know anything about boxing. And Castamata took him through the ranks. And sure enough, he became a world champion and one of the greatest fighters of all time, one of the greatest boxers of all time. But that punching power is, as far as we know today, it's very genetic. Should there be a 165 division? That's from Kamar Munir. Yes, I believe so. I would love to have a 165 division. I would love to see more divisions in UFC. Thoughts on Wonder Boy's YouTube channel? Rockman. That's from Rockman. Rockman, thanks for bringing that up. Guys, if you like my YouTube channel, make sure to go check out Wonder Boy's channel. He does a lot of technique videos, what I ate in a day type videos. It's still a fairly new channel. I subscribed myself. I really recommend it. Wonder Boy is one of the best fighters in the world. Supremely talented welterweight. And you guys would benefit a lot from watching his channel. Dirk Bruns asks, can Askren's wrestling deal with Maya's Jiu-Jitsu? That's what we're going to find out. I'm very intrigued about that. I think Maya's Jiu-Jitsu might be a little too much, but what could win it for Askren is if Askren controls him long enough and the bell expires. I think if this was a no time limit match, I would put my money on Maya because Maya's the only guy who will finish. In my opinion, he's the only guy who can finish. I'd be very surprised if Askren can put him in a sub. I'd be very surprised. Very surprised. However, Maya has the potential to sub, no doubt. And I think given enough time, he will. However, there's only 3 5-minute rounds. So if Askren plays it smart, he'll kind of take him down and try to smother him up against the fence and use other tactics to kind of win position, but don't go too deep in the exchanges that you get subbed. I think that would be a wiser strategy and kind of win it on the board. But if this was a no time limit match, and I say that, guys, don't forget, I always tell you guys that Jiu-Jitsu was developed in a no time limit environment. Vale Tudo fights where two guys fight and it's not over till somebody taps, till somebody gets knocked out or taps. It's not over. So that's why jiu-jitsu sometimes, it can lose to wrestling because of the format. However, if you put no time limit, believe me, jiu-jitsu will win the vast majority of the time. The vast majority of the time. Jiu-jitsu practitioners will change the way they fight. They will take their time and eventually find their way to a submission. What else we got here? Maya will KO Ben. That's from Delfinity. Well, that's possible, but he's not known for KOing people. But that is possible. I mean, who knows? Paulo Costa versus Yoel Romero. Wow. Your name is just a bunch of symbols, so I wouldn't know what to call you. Let's just call you Mr. Symbols. Paulo Costa versus Yoel Romero. This is a fight, guys. This is a fight. Man, there's a lot of good fights coming up. There's a lot of good fights. I don't know. Guys, like I say, I always want to watch the fights. I don't know. Paulo Costa is dangerous, man. He's really, really something else. I haven't seen enough of Paulo Costa yet to tell you if he can take on a Yoel Romero. I feel like Yoel's going to take him down and kind of control him. But I don't know enough about Paulo Costa. I just think that that Yoel is smart enough to recognize that he has a strong advantage in the takedown realm, and he's going to use it. It's going to be very heated standing up, but I think Yoel's going to run away with it with the takedowns, and he'll get those takedowns. Can he hold them down? That's what I'm excited to see. That's what I'm really, really excited to see. Yoel by murder. That's from Robert Murphy. I don't know, man. Paulo Costa is very tough. I mean, either one of these guys can ice the other. Either one. It wouldn't surprise me either way. There's a lot of power in that octagon. There's going to be a lot of power in that octagon. Do you like the Lockdown Scorpion Half Guard series? That's from Anthony Vecchio. Yes, I think it's good. It has its time and place. I'm not a super heavy user of that. Like some people are obsessed with it and that's all they ever do. I think it's very good. I do use it in my game, but I also have a lot of other techniques I like to use. So if the time comes and it's appropriate, I definitely do use it. However, it's not the core of my half guard game. It is not the core. Why don't people clinch Yoel? He doesn't have Jacare level top game. That's from Greg Sanders. Well, Greg, I invite you to go and book a session with him and teach us how to clinch with that monster of a man. Technically, you don't want to clinch. Technically, it's considered wrong to clinch with somebody who's superior in strength and athleticism. And my wrestling coach, he hails from Russia. And if I ever clinch with a bigger, stronger guy, I know it's hard to imagine that there are bigger, stronger guys than the old coach here. But try to imagine it. They do exist. And if I ever clinch with a bigger, strong guy, he would just tell me off. He would tell me I don't know what I'm doing. I'm an amateur, and that I don't understand anything about wrestling. And I learned over the years that he's right. Unless my opponent is my size, I won't clinch with him, or if I feel he's fatigued. But if I'm wrestling a bigger, stronger guy or more athletic guy, I won't clinch with him too much. I won't. I'll need to shoot and go behind, or shoot and get to the leg, or waist lock him. That I'll do. But I won't go 50-50 body lock neutral position, because the stronger guy has a serious advantage. There's no need to clinch with the bigger guy. There are better ways to go about it. Now, if you feel comfortable clinching with Yoel, let me just tell you something. You're my personal hero, because I definitely, if I was fighting, I wouldn't clinch with Yoel upper body unless I felt like he was tired or had him on the run or he was hurt, and I can kind of pummel him to death kind of thing, just kind of make him work and keep that exhaustion going. However, clinching with a fresh Yoel, you're going to get hurt. You're going to get thrown and you're going to get hurt. So unless you're willing to get on the mats and demonstrate for us, it's going to be a little bit hard for us to have confidence in that route. All right, what else we got here? We are at 1 hour, 8 minutes in. So I'm going to be doing the last few. Can I train in Montreal when I'm on vacation? Well, I definitely do recommend you do. That's what I do when I go on vacation. I like to go in a little spot, make the wife happy, and as she's basking in the sun and I fed her and all that and I took care of her, I'm going to step off the training and come right back. And I often do that when I go on little weekend trips or whatnot, because I like to get a training session in wherever I go. So I really recommend it. It makes sense. Try to mix your travel with your training. Your beard looks great now, man. Less stress. That's from Rias. Rias, thank you. Appreciate that. I just did straighten it up real quick before I jumped on the podcast. For those who don't remember, I used to have like bald patches in my beard. And the doctor didn't really know what it's from. Some of them say it's stress, but it's not proven. They're just a little speculation. They're just speculation that those bald patches you can get in your hair and beard are stress related. However, I didn't. It would go away and come back, and then I'm forgetting what it's called. But I did get those needles. They put those needles. They injected me with I don't know what, and it grew back. So I'm gonna do it one more time just to keep the beard nice and full. And my doctor did recommend I do it once more. However, I haven't done it the second time, but I will. Eventually, I will because I just want to make sure it's done right. But my beard feels pretty full, so I want to thank you, man. That's a big confidence booster when your beard is not patchy. All right, what else we got here? Coach, there are super chats that you now have not answered. Okay, let me scroll back up. All right, there they are. You're right. Coach, I sent $10 yellow super chat a few minutes ago. Please answer. Oh boy. Okay, let me go up. My apologies. All right. Can you develop having more heart and courage? That's from G. G, I believe so. I think over time with experience you develop more heart and courage. But I'll leave you with the words of Dan Gable. Supreme confidence comes from supreme conditioning. I wish I find that to be true. Supreme confidence comes from supreme conditioning. If you're having a heart or courage issue, I recommend that you get in supremely good shape. Do you have a favorite UFC fighter? That's from Muammar. I have so many UFC favorites, and one of them being right now Khabib Nurmagomedov. I always have trouble saying his last name. But Khabib is one of my favorite fighters. I just have a high regard for him. Among many others, of course, but he's definitely, of course, all the fighters I train, obviously, but then I'd be, very biased. From the fighters I don't train, would definitely be Khabib. Okay, let me see. What other super chats did I miss? Favorite philosopher? That's from 1234556. Very imaginative handle. Favorite philosopher? Well, guys, for those of you who don't know, I studied philosophy for over 20 years now. I have a bachelor's in philosophy from Concordia University, but that was just like the beginning of my journey. I've been studying philosophy over 20 years. I would say well over 20 years. But I say 20 years just so people don't think I'm sounding crazy. But it's been over 20 years. I studied the Greeks. I studied the Muslim philosophers. And I studied the Enlightenment in British empiricism, mostly British empiricism, but the Enlightenment period. And I'll have to pick a favorite philosopher from all those three eras. From the Greek era, I would choose Plato and Aristotle, no doubt, and Xenophanes. Parmenides. I would choose Pythagoras. If I had to choose just one, it would be Plato. From the Muslim era, I would pick definitely Al-Ashari, Ibn Al-Ashari. I would pick Imam Ghazali, and I would pick Ibn Arabi. Three phenomenal thinkers. They could never be overlooked. In that time period, those are probably, in my opinion, the most elite thinkers. In the Enlightenment period or British empiricism, I would choose. It's hard to choose. Oh, it's always hard to choose just one. I would have to say Immanuel Kant, George Berkeley, David Hume, and of course René Descartes. And you could not forget René Descartes. He in his books, he established modern philosophy. So René Descartes, when he wrote his Meditations, that was the start of modern philosophy. I do believe that a lot of his work is taken by the Arabs. Okay, the Muslim philosophers, a lot of his work reflects Ghazali's work. He definitely read Ghazali, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. It's almost identical. When I first read Ghazali, I thought, because I hadn't looked when Ghazali was published, I just picked it up and started reading. I thought Ghazali was copying Descartes. It's actually the other way around. Ghazali was written over 600 years before. Okay, so Descartes, no doubt in my mind, he read Ghazali, no doubt about it. Maybe one day we'll do a special episode on that. Okay, You'll gas is quick and stand trade. Avoid the big shots. That's from GM G3. You'll gas is quick. Well, it's a 3-round fight. He's getting older. He's in his 40s now. He's 41 now, I would assume. Is Paulo Costa the new young blood? Possibly, yes. So, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he gets tired. The man's in his 40s, but again, he's a phenom, man. He's a elite athlete, to say the least. I mean, among elite athletes, he's elite. So, I don't know. Maybe he doesn't get tired. Do that special episode. Well, maybe, my friend. Maybe if I can make the time. But I know it's going to happen. If I do a special episode on philosophy, I'm going to get a bunch of response, and then I'm going to have to respond to the response. And then I'm just going to get sucked into that black hole of philosophy, which, by the way, I love to do. But the thing is, I can't do it. Like I read on my own time, of course, and I study on my own time. But to do a separate show and to do what I'm doing now on this channel and another channel would just probably it would be too much. Okay, so for right now, I'm just gonna do it occasionally on this channel. And if you guys want to hear me discuss philosophy or science or anything, hit up your buddies. Hit up those famous talkers. Hit them up. Hey, ask them for me to be on their podcast. I'll happily go. Sam Harris, Jordan Peterson, any one of those guys. Go ahead, any one of those guys, anytime. Ask them to have me on. Why not? They do podcasts all the time. What's it gonna hurt to bring a little old coach from MMA? Why not? I mean, there's nothing to lose. It's just one other podcast. So I'm always open to that. We got another super chat. How do I turn the shame of past failure mistake into positive fuel source that can help me face future challenges? Mental judo. That's from Reese. Reese, listen, we all have a monumental amount of failures. Go read some biographies out there. Most superstars you've seen have failed chronically one time in their life. Like, for instance, let's look at Khabib. Undefeated in his entire career. Let me tell you something. I bet you Khabib got his ass kicked 100,000 times coming up through the ranks, either by training partners or amateur fights or whatever. He didn't walk on the mat the first day of his career, as a young man, dominating the mat. No, he got crushed, but the kid never gave up. Okay, when you see a black belt, I want you to see in your mind a guy who's gotten his ass kicked so many times, and he's learned that lesson so many times. He's learned from every lesson. Then now we have to give him a black belt because he's so hard to beat up now. Like, that's how good he is. Everybody goes through that. Okay, I don't care if Mayweather has a perfect record. He got many beatings in the gym. I guarantee you he got many beatings in the gym. He's lost plenty of fights in practice, to the point where when he competed, he was so good now, so polished, that he doesn't make mistakes. Okay, and look, you can do that with everybody in every art. Okay, so they all were humbled at one point. If you're being humbled now, it's just part of life. Like, one book I really enjoy, I recommend for you all, is The Score Takes Care of Itself by the San Francisco 49ers coach. Hold on, let me dig it up right here. I have it on my Audible. I'm forgetting his name. Bill Walsh. Is it Bill Walsh? Damn it. Let me hold on. This is a really good book, you guys. Oh yeah, Bill Walsh, The Score Takes Care of Itself. Look, he talks about, first of all, for those who don't know, Bill Walsh was the head coach of San Francisco 49ers when Montana had his golden age, the golden era of Joe Montana, Jerry Rice combination. He invented the West Coast offense, short passing, and he goes into detail in his book how he got to that point. Before that, he was on a string of failures. He was about to resign. He was about to give up. And he just had a string of losses, like just unbelievable amount of losses, until he figured out a way that works for him and his offense. And the reason why he developed the West Coast offense, again, the West Coast offense is short little passes, is because the quarterback he had no arm. He didn't have a powerful arm. He couldn't throw the ball down the field with accuracy at all. He had a very weak arm. So they worked with what they had, and he eventually found a way that works for his team. And he went from his lowest point to his highest point in about 11 months, like at the point where he was about to quit and he decided not to quit. 11 months later, they won their first Super Bowl. They turned things around. So an incredible biography. I'm also reading Bill Belichick's biography right now, another great biography. And I really recommend you read those. Read somebody's biography. Read biographies. Biographies are a great inspiration. I generally don't read anything science fiction. I mostly read philosophy, science, math, history. But I also like to read biographies. There's a lot to learn about other people's lives and the decisions they've made. So for me, I like to look at past fighters. I like to look at past figures throughout history. They all went through tough times. But there's one thing they'll have in common. They never quit. They never quit. Quitting is out of the question. We're going to make it or we're going to die trying. This is the two options we have. These are the two options we have. And that's the mentality, I think you got to take. And listen, we all take a beating ego-wise. And then the haters are going to come. Whenever you have a failure, all the haters jump on. Don't worry about those guys. The fact that they hate is because they want you to stop trying. Why? Because they stop trying. Because really somebody who's successful, somebody who has that, I'm going to keep, and again, guys, I'm going to make it or I'm going to die trying. I might not make it in MMA. I might not make it in coaching. I might have to change, but I'm going to be successful. Okay. I don't believe in making a pinpoint accurate prediction about what I'm going to be successful in, because you never know. Like, for instance, guys, I used to want to be a football player. I used to want to be as a kid, I used to dream about being a professional football player. I never made it as a professional football player. Why? I was too short. I was a quarterback in Little League. I used to play quarterback. My dream was to be a Joe Montana. Okay, that's why I picked up the Bill Walsh book. I was fascinated. Growing up, I was fascinated with Joe Montana. And I used to play quarterback. I was a really good quarterback until my linemen were too tall for me to see over. And I would have trained night and day if I could be quarterback. I would have trained night and day, 24 hours a day, just to be a quarterback in the NFL. However, I was too short. That's the truth. You know, they wouldn't consider me as a quarterback. And then later I found martial arts, and I became very successful in martial arts. But you know what? Now looking back, I'm happy as a martial. I rather, if you ask me, would you rather be a professional football player or what you do today immersed in martial arts? I would choose martial arts. I'm far more immersed. I'm far more in love with martial arts than I ever was with football. I didn't know it. Okay, I didn't know about martial arts back then, so all I had was football. Nonetheless, the point is, we're going to be successful. We're never going to give up trying to be successful. And that's the mentality you got to have. The haters are just people who gave up. That's why they're trying to pull you down. Hey, come down to our level. Because if you make it and you push through, comparatively, we're going to look bad. Comparatively, we're going to look bad. We're going to look like the guys who gave up at the first or second obstacle. There's no giving up. And who knows what success is going to look like, but we're going to make it or we're going to die trying. Like if you're diagnosed with 2 days left to live, I still would want you to try to be successful. Even though you have 48 hours, still go for being successful. So I think if you embody that type of mentality, you will be successful one way or another. All right, we got a super chat. Tristar is a good place for complete beginners to learn MMA. The answer would be yes, Tariq. That's from Tariq Rahman. Yes, we have beginners class. Come check it out. We have touch sparrings to pro sparrings. We have every type of level you need. And that's what's so great about Tristar. We've trained many amateurs all the way up to UFC, from their first fight in MMA, Jujitsu and all that, all the way up to UFC. I've done it many times, and I believe Tristar's formula will continue to do it for many, many years. Okay, guys, it's 1 hour and 22 minutes in. I'm going to take one last question. Let's make it a good one. Guys, write in all caps. You know I like that. What do you think about the Malcolm X biography? That's from Al-Hamza. Al-Hamza, it's a phenomenal biography. Malcolm X was a brilliant human being. He was an inspirational figure. He did a lot for the black community. For those of you who don't know, he was heavily immersed in the Nation of Islam. Nation of Islam has nothing to do really with Islam. It's a very different ideology, completely different religion. However, we do share a name together. Malcolm X was in a religion where, you know, it was it's black supremacy. It is black supremacy. Now, today they have a much softer stance. Today, there has been comments about how we can get along. However, they do see the black man as more pure, etc., superior, etc., etc. He broke away from that. You know, he went to Mecca. As he traveled in Mecca, he at night. You know, for those of you who don't know, Mecca. You know, now it's appropriate to talk about it. Now is the great Eid, the great holiday of Islam, where everybody's now traveling to the pilgrimage. Everybody from all over the world goes to Mecca. All the Muslims from all over the world. There's about 2.5 million Muslims in one area at once. Now, If you go to Mecca, they say going to a trip to Mecca is like a trip around the world. You literally see every type of human being from every corner of the globe. Every type of human being from every corner of the globe. And at night, when everybody was sleeping, Malcolm X said, look, I heard everybody snoring the same. Everybody snoring the same. And he realized that this whole Nation of Islam thing was a perversion of Islam. There's no way. There's no racism in Islam. He was in a place where racism does not exist. And he converted to Orthodox Islam. He said, look, I believe in one God. There's no superior race. He dropped all that. And look, lo and behold, they killed him for it. Okay, later on, he was assassinated for it. However, I felt that his journey was a tremendous one. Now, quick little anecdote. I just came from Newark. And let me tell you something. We went to Friday prayer, so we went to Friday prayer in Newark. I've been to mosques all over the world. And one of the guys with us, he wasn't very confident, because when we went to this neighborhood, it was kind of, it was a really ghetto neighborhood. It was a lot of black people, like an ocean of black people going to the mosques. Ocean, like just a congregation, a huge congregation. And listen, me, I enjoy the company of all races. I wasn't the least bit worried. He's like, man, I'm a little bit iffy. Are you crazy? I was like, this is Friday prayer, man. There's not a single racist human being in this building. I walked in with I've done this before. My friend, maybe he's from another part. He's from another continent. He was from another continent. I don't want to say which one. He was like, are we gonna be welcomed? Of course we're gonna be welcomed. You can go in any mosque in anywhere in the world, and you could be the only Asian or the only black or the only white or the only Spanish person, and all you're gonna hear is "Salam alaikum," peace. There's not gonna be any racism at all. I walked in complete confident, like, that's crazy. I walked in first, and I went to the Jummah, and there's just not an issue. And at the end, we're hanging out with them, talking to them. Everybody's equal and friendly and kind, and it's just such a beautiful experience. Now, would I walk into a neighborhood that's not mine? And that would be for any race. It's a white neighborhood or a black neighborhood or an Arabic neighborhood, or like outside of my race. If they're outside of my race and I feel like it's a ghetto area where they're very hostile to foreigners, maybe I would think twice, maybe. But not in this situation. This is a Friday prayer mosque. They're Muslim. This is really not in the mentality of Islam at all. There's zero racism. And all we got was smiling faces, salam alaikums, and friendly chats, So it was a great experience. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is because it likens to what Malcolm X must have experienced near the end of his life. When he traveled to Mecca, he must have experienced the same thing where because being black in the 60s and 70s was very different than being black today. The prejudice was far greater. The segregation was far greater. The troubles the black community had were far more, and then they still have troubles today, no doubt. They still have troubles today. However, today, they're greater in number and they're more pronounced in society. Whereas before, to be a doctor or to be a lawyer or to be a politician or to be president was almost nonsensical to the population. Today, obviously, we look back at that and we think that's horrible. But that was the times then. So Malcolm X was struggling against a lot of prejudice. So he probably had a bitterness to him. He probably had, he did have obviously a lot to say about that. However, he overcame it. That he said, I don't want to be what I've been protesting. Because obviously, there was a point in his life where he was trying to fight racism with racism. He was trying to fight racism with racism. He was going down to their level, where at the end of his life he rose up above their level. He took the high road, which I highly admire about the man. And Muhammad Ali had the similar journey. So anyways, guys, I think that's a good positive note to end on. I want to thank you all for liking and sharing as usual, and I hope to see you all in the next episode. Thank you very much.